All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. So, tonight we're going to do a little bit more performance stuff, but there's a couple things I have to bring up before we actually jump into that. So, before we get into any of that stuff, though, actually, one thing I need to do right off the bat is thank the supporters of the channel, starting with the partners, who are the highest tier of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships. They are Gebi Bashir and Gerbolis Inc. I would also like to thank all the other supporters listed here. They are the other tiers of support over on Patreon, YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And of course, this project would not be here without all of you viewers. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys as well. Thank you for being here and following along with my little series here. So, okay. So, one thing that is worth bringing up is on the last stream, we were kind of looking at some performance issues because we were getting an abnormally low frame rate. And as it turns out, it had actually nothing to do with the engine itself. There are things that need to be optimized, but I discovered that the fact that OBS is actually running and simulcasting to YouTube and Twitch apparently is hammering my GPU. And so at some point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on switching my setup to separate the streaming portion of this off to a different machine. I'm going to use the Mac that I got that I use for porting stuff. I'm going to use that as my streaming machine, and that will free this computer up to be able to handle a lot more stuff, right? So unfortunately, I don't have that set up yet tonight. Maybe by tomorrow, but I'm guessing it probably won't be till next week, right? Because I'm about 90% there, but I've got a lot of testing that I need to do on that before I can actually commit to it and go live with it, right? So that is coming. I'm also waiting on a part to come in the mail. So yeah, so with that, a lot of the stuff that we were looking at last time wound up being completely invalid because I had another set of issues that was going on that has also been fixed. So last time I ran into a myriad of issues trying to get VTune to work and trying to get RenderDoc to work. And as you can see on the screen here, I have RenderDoc working, and VTune also works. I actually have that right here as well. And so, as it turns out, my my desktop, the motherboard was indeed bad. So I had to swap out that motherboard over the weekend and test that out. So the good news is all that is in place. Everything's fixed, and we should be good to go with the exception of switching the streaming setup probably next week. So that's pretty much all the housekeeping stuff, I think. So we should be able to go ahead and jump into what we're going to work on tonight. Sleepy Mushroom, hello. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing tonight? Good to have you here. All right. So basically, I just had this render doc up here just to kind of display that yes, we are in fact getting. I think that music might be a little loud. Let me back that down a little bit. So we are in fact up and running with RenderDoc again, and VTune, right? And so I was looking around in VTune, and I'm pleased to say that if I look, actually we can kind of go over this really quickly. So this is the entire time that I ran this particular profiling run on the latest build. And what we're looking at right here is basically this is the initialization and startup of the engine. And then these right here where we spin up all of our job threads. And then from here is where I hit the load button, right, to load up a scene. And so all of these bits of work here are being done on different threads to load textures, essentially. I think that's the only thing we've multi-threaded at this point. Maybe meshes? I don't remember. But that's the process of reading them from disk and getting them into memory and parsing those files, right? but the process going from host memory to GPU memory is still single threaded, so we need to address that at some point as well. But that's what we're basically looking at here. So from this point on, most things are loaded. Like most of our meshes and our most of our textures are loaded. And then if we take a look a little bit further in, right about here, is where everything is loaded and all of our textures have popped in and everything is good to go. So we can see here that we're pretty bound on the main thread right here, right? And so that's kind of what I expect, because I haven't multi-threaded a lot of our runtime processes. So this is more or less what I kind of expect. So if I go ahead and make a selection here and drill down a little bit, I'm going to filter in by, let's see, zoom in and filter in by selection. Let's do that. Full Stack Design and Apex, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. So basically what we're looking at here is a flame graph, which essentially tells us how much of this time slice is spent cumulatively for each of these functions, right? And so our main function is here, which obviously occupies most of the time. We've got some other stuff on different threads over here. Not really important. And then our engine run is obviously the big function call from there. Our prepare frame is here, which is about what I would expect, and render frame is here. It's this big bar here, which is again about what I would expect. The rendering is generally going to take the longest. And then we have our application update here. So it's no surprise to me that rendering takes the longest. That being said, we have a couple of other things to point out. So our renderer end here, which is basically when we're going from one frame to the next, is mostly actually held up by our Vulkan validation layers. So our dispatch wait for fences and our Vulkan layer chassis, these are all validation layers, right? Same here with all of these guys, right? So in our render graph execute frame, which is sort of that within that render frame, we do have some scene pass execute stuff that takes a little bit of time. Our shadow map pass execute takes a pretty decent amount of time, but of that, if we drill down, we can see that it's mostly the Vulkan functions that are taking all the time, right? So there are some things to address in here that we can definitely sort out. Stripping out the validation layers and running a release build would probably give us much better results. But when I ran this, I was getting somewhere between 65 and 70 frames a second, which is not great considering what we have loaded, but it's not as bad as it was the other day, right? And obviously, frames per second isn't necessarily the best measurement anyways, but it's the one that most people understand, so that's the one I'm going with, right? Okay, so enough about that. That just kind of gives you an idea of where we actually stand as opposed to where we stood last time. So what we're looking at this time around is I kind of want to mimic what we did with our shadow maps for some of our terrain logic. And that is I want to use a texture array, or an arrayed texture, I should say, instead of having a whole bunch of samplers in that, because I feel like that would be a pretty decent boost to the way our terrain is actually rendered. And it also kind of will solidify something I was kind of already thinking anyways, which all of our terrain texture maps should also be of the same size, which of course is a requirement for an array texture. But before we get to that, there was one other thing that I kind of wanted to point out. Actually, I think VS Code might actually give me a preview of this, so maybe I'll use this for a second. So in our assets, when we are looking at our materials, right? Let me just pick, let's see. Let's go with, I'm trying to think of one that has multiple maps. I think this wavy sand might actually be a decent example. So this wavy sand has an albedo, a metallic, a roughness, a normal, and an ambient occlusion, right? And so that's pretty much, that's all the maps, right? But that's 5 texture maps for one material, which is kind of insane. The other part of this that is a little bit nuts is if we take a look at the textures themselves. So in this case, I think it's all going to be wavy sand. Start with wavy sand. So if we take a look at these things, our albedo texture, right, makes sense. It's a full color texture. Technically speaking, it could have transparency, although transparency on terrains doesn't make sense, but we'll gloss over that for right now. The normal has to make use of RGB, right? It doesn't necessarily need transparency, but maybe we could use something else, use that for something else. But our roughness really only needs one channel of data, right? And this might be a little bit hard to see over stream, but what we're looking at is the roughness map here, and there are subtle variations here. Our roughness, our metallic, which is all black in this case, but is essentially grayscale, and our ambient occlusion, which is also grayscale. These 3 maps only require, this one, and this one. Only actually require a single channel of texture data. But what we're doing right now is we're actually loading in all those things as additional textures, right? And so that's what we're going to try and address tonight. Is we're going to write a little utility that will take these 3 textures essentially and combine them into one, and we're going to run that against all of our materials, and then we're going to go ahead and convert our material system to only accept those combined maps, right? And so whenever you make one of these materials for the engine, you'll need to run it through this bit of logic where it takes those 3 maps and combines them into one, because that's going to make it a lot more efficient. It's going to cut our texture lookups and our sampling, in a third essentially. So essentially we can sample the texture once in the fragment shader and get 3 pieces of data that we need, 1 from R, 1 from G, 1 from B, right? So that's the plan for tonight. And then if we get to that point, then we're going to move to the array texture stuff for the terrains, which will build on top of that. Tammin, how's it going? Good to see you. Glad you could make it. I wanted to try something, by the way. I've been looking for... Let me see if I can find... couldn't this also be done for albedo, packing 4 channels vec4 into a uint32? Packing 4 channels of vector 4 into a uint32. Do you mean... Well, I mean, if you think about it, that's not actually any different than how we're loading up the texture data now, right? So for the albedo map, for example, we're loading up 4 U8s, right? So that's really no different. It's just we load it that way instead. So it's really, what you're really talking about there is just changing the shape of how we interpret that data, but the data is ultimately the same. So we're already kind of doing that if you think about that. So instead of using 4 channels, instead of using 4 channels in texture, only use 1. So you can combine with other textures as well. Oh, you're talking about textures with 32-bit channels? But that'll get weird in the, that might get weird in the fragment shader if we do that. I mean, I suppose we could try it. But it's not something that I've seen commonly done anyways. But yeah, we could look into it. We could try it. But my main idea here is also, we could gain a lot just by combining those 3 textures, right? So, and I suppose I could theoretically shove that into the alpha channel of other maps or whatever, but this just seems to make a lot more sense to me. And we're going to wind up with more maps than this anyway. So we're eventually going to wind up with an emissive map, which we don't have yet for emissive materials. So we're going to need some way to map that as well. MOK Dev, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Hope you're doing well tonight. All right. So the way that I'm thinking about handling this is we'll probably just use our tools project to actually implement this. And we'll just kind of have like a command line app for now. Doing great. Hope you are too. Awesome. Well, welcome. First time chat as well. So welcome. So I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll kind of write a small command line app for now, just to sort of make that process really quick so that we can run it a bunch of times. And then what we can do from there is maybe integrate that into a library that the editor can then load later on. But for now, I'm just looking for something quick and dirty, right? So let's have a look at... Oh yeah, that reminds me, I got distracted. I wanted to look up something for you, Tammin, actually. I just have to find it. Give me 1 second, and I don't want to give it away unless I can actually do it. I think I have to go to... Okay. Tammin, I'm going to give you a special role. I just have to find it. Just give me 1 second. I've not actually done this before on stream, so. And I can only do it while you're here. So I have to kind of do it live. So just bear with me 1 second while I figure this out. All right, so I think I can just do... There you go, Tammin. You are now a VIP of the channel. Just because you've been here for a long time on here. And so I figured that made sense to give you Tammin getting special treatment. Yeah, I have a few VIPs to add. I think there's a way to actually do it through the UI, but I just wanted to see if that would work. Let's see. Yeah, what I said is actually not a good idea because you'll eventually want to compress those textures to BC format. Yeah, exactly. BC formats for albedo, normal, and other maps are different. Yep, exactly. Yeah, so we have to handle compression differently, right? For like albedo and normal maps, like we're eventually going to have to handle those a little bit different. So. Weird Trash Can, hello. How are you? Good to see you. Guess what? Weird Trash Can also gets it. He's been here a while. It's your birthday today? Happy birthday. That's awesome. Yes, Twitch did add a VIP role. And actually, Smudge, you get it as well. Because you've also been here a long time. Yes, you are. And you know what, Hamster? I'll give you it as well. There we go. Full on Christmas spirit, exactly. Yeah, so I've been meaning to do that for a while, actually, and I just kept forgetting to like look up how to do it. So there you go, guys. I guess a little late Christmas spirit, right? And happy birthday, trash can. Feels weird to say that, happy birthday, trash can, but yeah, happy birthday. All right. So the first thing I think I actually need to do is in build all, I think I turned off. Yeah, I turned off tools. I'm going to leave tests off, but I'm going to turn tools back on. Right, because we need that. We need tools now. The other thing that I'm going to do is, let's see, we have source. So I'm going to take a copy of STB image and put it in vendor STB image, right? And that is because eventually this is the only place that STB image is actually going to live, is in our tool set. And eventually we're going to take that out of the engine core, but I'm not quite ready to do that tonight. So let's see. Can call you Diego if you want. That's cool. All right. I will try to remember that. VIP chat only. I'm not allowed to comment. Yes, you are. Of course you are. Yeah, I gave out long-standing VIPs tonight because I kept forgetting to do it. So now it does look like a VIP only chat though. That's funny. Okay. So I need to turn on tools again, which means I'm also going to have to do that for Weird Trash Can gifting a tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate the support. So let's see. We need to turn this back on for the bash script as well, which of course, there we go. Okay. You misclicked? What did you mean to click, Trash Can, out of curiosity? Let's see, over on the YouTube side. Hi, since you did a detour away from the editor a while ago, I was wondering how you envision the editor. Will it be like Unreal, or more a separate small tool collection, more like a framework? So we're actually going to have a full-blown editor application, right? So you're going to be able to edit your scenes in that, your UI in that, all those different things. That editor is also going to support plugins, much like our runtime game application will. So you'll be able to write plugins for that, for like scripting languages and stuff like that, for example. And so the editor is going to be a full-blown editor for sure. It's going to start small because there's a lot of pieces that go into developing an editor of the size that we're going to be making, right? But yeah, it's going to be a full-blown editor. I won't say like Unreal or Unity because those things are huge. We're definitely not aiming for feature parity there, because I'm one dude, right? I can't do that all by myself. But we are going to have editors, right, that are going to be responsible for editing stuff for our engine, right? So let's see. Do you prefer live viewers on YouTube or Twitch? If it matters to you at all, it actually doesn't matter. Either or is fine, whatever your preference is, right? Because we stream to both platforms now, so, and I try to keep an eye on both, right? So you're also going to have a editor runtime pressing play. So do you mean like the play in editor? maybe. That shouldn't be too difficult to implement. There will be some things I have to keep in mind with that. It may or may not make sense to do that. We'll see as far as that goes. As far as being able to like preview in the editor, we'll see. It may make more sense to launch an external process with flags passed to it of some sort that tell it where to launch, right? Which essentially is what the preview is anyway, but it may be a little easier to manage that way. We'll see. Okay. You meant to buy a sub for you, and you gifted a sub instead. That's hilarious. I don't think I can fix that though, but that's funny. Did I sort out the issue with multi-streaming hammering my GPU? So, yes and no. Essentially the issue was that I was getting basically false flags of like really low performance in the engine because multi-streaming was hammering my GPU, and that's still happening. But what I'm working on to fix that is I'm going to use the MacBook that I got to port Kohi as my streaming machine. And so I've got a part that I'm waiting on to come in the mail, and then I think I should be able to hook that up, and I'll be doing a test stream at some point, and offloading all of the streaming overhead onto that, so that way this machine is free to do whatever I need to do. It'll also allow me to go like, hey, if I need to switch over to Linux for something midstream, I can do that. So that's kind of the plan to get around that. Gonna implement editor part as well, or just NeoVim in it? Do you mean like the like a code editor? Oh, I mean, I could embed NeoVim in it if I really hated myself. But yeah, there'll probably be some form of code editor in there as well. A light one, maybe. I thought that GPUs had an encoding, decoding cores that wouldn't affect rendering performance. I thought that too, but I think because I'm using... It's also hitting my CPU, right? So I think because I'm doing to 2 streams at once, there's 2 sets of encoding running at the same time, which is not great. But also, if my graphics driver or something craps out, which is a lot easier to do with Vulkan than it is OpenGL, for example, then the stream goes down, right? So I think it's much safer to just offload that. It's probably the same core, but different execution units, yeah. Which means it's kind of sliced, right? So either way you look at it, it's resources that need to be offloaded. Yeah. Maggots, hello. How are you doing today? And Reductor, first time chat, welcome, by the way. Let's see. So you're probably going to have a... I already read that one. Thanks, keep up the good work. Really enjoying the VODs. Awesome. Appreciate that. Oh, I did fix the playlist, by the way, and added all the previous streams to that playlist on YouTube, by the way. So, streaming and graphics programming is like Russian roulette. Exactly. Yeah, I've had it kill my GPU drivers a couple of times. So, yeah. To remove some of that risk, I'm going to move my streaming setup over. So, let's see. You could tweak CPU affinity and make it handle any CPU heavy parts better. Yeah, but again, I think it would be much safer to just offload it to a different machine, right? I think there's a reason that a lot of people do that. And especially like if we ever get a decent amount of traffic through here, it might have an effect on it as well. So, am I going to kill the stream by forgetting this sync? I mean, it's possible, right? I've had it happen before. I've had it crash the actual, the driver. I've had that happen on a number of occasions. All right. Weather has been quite chilly here and around -30°C all week. That's pretty cold. That's pretty cold. Yeah, it's gotten like, I want to say like -4°C here a couple of times, but not really too much more than that. What I'm surprised is there isn't a third party service that does all the multi-streaming part for you. There is, but I don't necessarily want to run it through a third-party stream, I guess. Because I think there's something called Restream out there, but I don't know if you have to pay for that. You might have to. We have ads. So one of the things that I like to do on this stream is whenever we have an ad break, which on Twitch is served every half an hour for 90 seconds, we pause the stream so that nobody misses any content, right? And so that's kind of what we're doing here. Lads, I was wondering when somebody was going to ask that. So that's a bit of an inside joke. And so if you look at the chat where it says !ads, which is my bot command to basically make Streamlabs talk about, we're breaking for ads so nobody misses content. Yeah, the exclamation mark makes it look like lads. So that was kind of the joke there. So it became a bit of a meme, and it died off a little bit recently, but it's kind of coming back. I guess it's making a comeback. So that's the idea there, and it actually looks like that over on the YouTube side too. You've never felt less than 12C? Yeah, I have on a number of occasions, but. Negative 30C is around negative 22 Fahrenheit. Yeah. That sounds about right. We're just about done with ads. In fact, ads are now dead. Cool. So, where do we want to start? I think let's go ahead and open up tools main. And we actually need to strip some old stuff out of here, because we had some stuff in here that we were using before that now no longer makes sense. So this build shaders thing, this is what our post-build script was doing before, when we still had to compile shaders externally, and we no longer have to do that. So we're going to actually remove that out of here. I didn't bother removing it before because, we just kind of turned it off. So instead of build shaders, I guess we could probably just use the same logic here. So we can say combine maps. Maybe we'll just say combine, right? Or maybe like C maps, right? Whatever. And then instead of process shaders, we'll call this combine texture maps. And so basically what the way that this command is going to work is it's going to take a number of arguments for texture maps. And we're also going to specify what channel those texture maps go into. And then we're going to read the data out of those texture maps and combine them. So let's see. Best of luck with the stream tonight. Off to bed for me. Cheers. All right, From Lake. Good to see you. Have a good one. All right. So, the bin folder, we don't need the bin folder. Let me just see here. So we don't need this SDK path stuff at all, actually. The only thing is bin. So let's see, what was bin folder used for? Anything? Yeah, okay. So we don't actually need any of this stuff, so this can all go. And actually, let's do, let's see, stage. Where was stage coming from? Stage is down there. Okay. So let's get rid of end path. You know what? Let's actually let's wipe all this out. And what we'll do is one argument equals one shader. Okay, so let's have our string look something like this. Let's figure out the usage first, actually. So it's going to be tools.exe, right, for Windows. And then it's going to be combine or cmaps. And then we're going to take the metallic, roughness, and AO maps and combine them. So let's do AO equals file name. And then we do metallic equals file name, I guess. And then roughness equals file name. And if we don't have one of those maps, then we'll just use some default value instead. So for metallic, that's going to wind up being 0 for the default value. For roughness, it'll be 1. For AO, it'll also be 1 across the board. And I think that should cover us, right? So the idea here is that we can provide any of these arguments. There's got to be at least one, otherwise it doesn't make sense. We can provide any number of them in any order, and then combine them. When we combine them, we'll say into the following format. So texture, let's say output texture will be RGBA. Channels will be, for the R, we'll put the metallic. I typed Metallica by accident. Then we'll do G will be roughness. And then B will be, I guess we'll take AO for that. And then alpha will be reserved. And we'll set it to 1 for now. Let's see. Do the models already come with the Fresnel R0 and roughness shininess baked in? So that's probably something we also need to fix. So right now when we read in the MTL from like an OBJ format file, it was assuming a Phong model. But now we're kind of converting that and treating it as PBR. But we don't necessarily have like the metallic and roughness maps in there by default, right? So we might need to redo some of that logic when we import an OBJ, right? All right. So let's do. Let me actually move this up here outside of this loop. All right, and we'll go ahead and create a little bit of a sort of a configuration up here, right? Let's say we'll do this inline. This is kind of not ideal, but type def struct channel map. And we'll call this channel map.
Now I got it right. Now I got it right.
Weird Trash Can, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate that. And also the TTS is working, although I'm pretty sure I just heard it twice for some reason, so I'm not sure why that is. But you got a free TTS, right? So that's awesome. I appreciate the sub there, though. Thanks for that. All right. So in the channel map, we need a channel type, I guess. Let's type def enum map type. Map type. And we'll say map type italic map type roughness and map type AO for right now. So here we'll do map type and file path. And actually, we don't even really need, I guess we don't need that for right now. But what we can do is U8 data. And yeah, that should be good enough. So we'll take each map, load it into data, and then the maps will be in an array. So we'll have map type 4. Let's call this maps, right? So it's an array of 4. And then we'll just essentially, let's actually do this. Map type max equals 4. Let's do this. Right. And then for each one, we'll parse out what the type is, looking at the first part of the argument. So I guess we'll take the entire argument and split it by the equals. Look at the first field, get the type. Look at the second field, get the file path. Maybe because I output to 2 streams? It might be. I'm thinking it's probably like some foobar, like OBS thing that I've got in here twice. Because I have an alert box, but I also have... Oh, you know what? I have 2 alert boxes in here. Why do I have 2? I'm going to turn off one of them. That might be why, actually. Okay. I might have just figured it out. You just heard it once? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it came in twice through my headphones. It did one and then the same message again. It plays it twice to make sure everyone pays attention to it. That's funny. All right. So I guess, let's see. I suppose we could say this is like, what, a max of... Let's do 20 characters, right? Map type string. We'll allow for 20 characters. And then we'll do end path. So we don't want that. What we actually want to do is we want to split the string first. So do we have... I don't think we're actually using any of our library stuff in here, are we? Yeah, we are. Okay. include core k-string. Whoa, hype train. That's pretty cool. We've not had a successful one of those yet. So, Hamster Dev, thank you for the Prime sub. I appreciate that. That's a new thing. I actually haven't had a successful hype train yet, so I appreciate that. You guys might be making history here. Okay, so defines. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but if you throw 100 bits, you can get TTS. Right, so that's a thing. Also, I think subs also count for that. So if you input a message into the text box when you subscribe, I believe that also counts. All right, so let's do. I think splits, and then string split. So we have to provide a D array. Okay, so this actually has to be an array of this. So we'll say equals D array. Oh, you know what? We don't have D array, do we? So let's include Beer and Wine Addict. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Core. Nope, it's containers rather. Containers. D array. Let's see, 2.5 minutes on the hype train. All right, so we'll go D array create, and the type here will be character pointer, right? So we're creating an array of character pointers, array of strings rather. String split, I think. So here we need to take argv at index argc. The delimiter that we're looking for is the equals symbol. And then the D array that we're passing in is going to be the address of splits. Trim entries, we do want to do that. We want to trim them. And we do not want to include empty, so we'll say false. And I believe this tells me how many parts we got, if I remember correctly. The number of entries yielded by the split operation. Okay, so was that a U32? I think. Yeah. All right, so U32 parts equals this. Actually, we'll say part count. And let's actually rename this to parts. Okay. So we'll split the string by the equal, and then we'll take parts 0 and compare that against these individual things, right? So we'll do metallic. Whoa, Frozen gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. That's a lot of support. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. Appreciate that. And incidentally, that's the first type train we've ever had be successful on this channel. So thank you very much for that. Really, really appreciate that. That is awesome. I can't say that enough. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So let's see. We want parts sub-zero for all of these, right? And I think we actually only need a few of those cases. So we'll do this one against roughness. This one will be the AO. And then what we'll do here is we'll take a string copy of parts 1. Oh, wait a minute. That's the target. It needs the target. So we need to do maps. And then we'll do map type metallic. What did we call that? File path. File path. And then here we'll take parts index 1. And what we're actually going to do is we're not going to do a, well, I guess we could do an end copy. Let's just make it really long, right? You can't believe you already lost your places, your first place as gifter. No. Yeah, that was pretty quick, actually. I guess there's a little competition going on there, right? Ruche with the Yar Bongos. Thank you. Gotta love the Yar Bongos. All right, so maps. Oh, I did map type instead of, this should be channel map. That's why I wasn't finding it. Okay, so we're basically going to do the same operation. Right, and instead of metallic, we'll do roughness. And then instead of metallic here, we'll do AO. All right, so we parse out that data for each one of those things first. And then we'll also say unrecognized map type. And we'll say parts 0. I can't compete because I'm broke. Yeah, I can understand that. No worries. Yeah, you definitely don't feel like you have to. I just, I of course appreciate all the support, but, definitely don't feel like you have to. If you can't afford it, that's totally okay. Alvaro, hello. And Max Dignitas. I almost read that wrong. Hello, coders. Hello. How are you guys doing tonight? Yeah, I got your weird trash can. Yeah, it's all good, man. No worries. All right. So once we figure that out, we don't need any of this stuff. So we can get rid of all that. Successfully processed all maps. All right. So at this point, we've parsed out the file name, all the file names rather, and put them into our maps entry. And now all we have to do is loop through the maps entry. And for any of them that don't have a file path, obviously we'll have to load some default data. Let's also zero that out. Hype train success. That's the first one on the channel, so that's awesome. Thank you guys very much. New record is level 3 at 5%. So that's awesome. Super, super awesome. Frozen, doing Java for my job, but want to get back into C. Fun watching being written in a project like this. That's awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So you're, Actually, I did some Java game dev like years and years and years ago on Android, which was interesting. Didn't love it, I have to say. I didn't love it. I of course prefer C, but yeah, I've done Java enough to know that I don't want to do Java. But you know, you got to do what you got to do to pay the bills, right? Most Java devs say the same. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I use TypeScript at work, and sometimes I hate that too. And or the the JavaScript ecosystem in general. So I definitely get that. You're currently studying Android dev. That's awesome. I think a lot of it nowadays uses Kotlin, right? Yeah, they mostly use Kotlin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've not touched that at all. The Java dev that I did back in the day was for like Android 2, I think. So yeah, it's been a minute. What features from other languages, C++, do you wish were in pure C? That's a limited list. I think the only thing that I kind of miss a little bit is operator overloads. But I say that with a huge caveat. Operator overloads tend to be abused like crazy in C++. The string stream thing is the worst example of that. I think that operator overloads should be limited to things like vector type multiplication, that kind of deal. I would love to have it for that, but for me, it's not worth switching to C++ for that, right? Also, on occasion, it would be nice to have some form of lambda expression, right? But I can live without it, right? Yeah, in Java, you spend more time managing libraries than actually coding. Yeah, that was my experience with it too, for sure. Barbel, exactly. Yeah, the std cout hello world business. Yep. It's unbelievable how Java is still alive. It's very, very much alive. Wish we had an easier way to do vector swizzling. Ooh, that's a good one, actually. Vector swizzling would be awesome. I would like that. I'd love that in GLSL. Yeah, that would be freaking sweet to be able to do that. Or for any type, really, not even just vectors, but like any structure type, right? Be great to be able to do something like that. Of course, it might get complicated too, but the solution I wrote using macros is ugly as heck. Yeah, I thought about doing that once, and I just couldn't get anything that just didn't feel completely dirty. Doesn't Kronos make you pay the official JDK, pay for the official JDK now? That's why there's open JDK? I honestly don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I haven't touched Java in so long I couldn't tell you. Okay. So we're doing that. All right. So let's loop through and load up our default data, right? So, oh yeah, I didn't even catch on to that. Kronos owns JDK? I thought that was Oracle. Oh, okay, you mixed it up. Okay. I was going to say, I thought that was Oracle. They make you pay for JDK? Why would anybody pay to use Java? You were just reading the Vulkan docs, so yeah, you conflated it. I do that all the time and stuff. Okay. Oh, I don't need this. So, let me open the image loader. Let me grab I might actually use stdio for this implementation of it. So I think I'm just going to take this. Right, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to take this. And we have ads. So for those of you who are new to the stream on either side, on the Twitch side, we get served ads every 30 minutes for 90 seconds. So obviously that depends on region and locale. Some people get served 30 seconds of ads. Some people don't get ads at all. But I like to support the lowest common denominator there and just say, let's pause the stream for that 90 seconds so that nobody misses any content. And so that's what we're doing now. We've got a little bit under a minute left, actually. And it gives me a chance to hydrate, which is good. JDK 21 binaries are free to use in production and free to redistribute at no cost under the Oracle no fee terms and conditions. Okay. Oh, the binaries are, yeah. That makes sense. Got about 18 seconds left. All right. And ads are dead, so we can move on. So I think the only thing I don't remember is where we had to flip Y and where we didn't. So let me just search for that real quick. Load cube textures. Okay, cube textures don't. But our normal textures do. Okay, height map. Yeah, so it looks like... Oh, also our height map does not. Which actually it probably should. I think the only thing that we don't want to flip is cube map. Okay. I don't think I'm going to bother multi-threading this. So what I'm going to do is... When we call combine texture maps, I'll just go ahead and just call this, or set this here, and do true for this, right? We're always going to want to flip that on the y-axis. Always flip y when loading in. And that's because most image formats, the image data is actually stored upside down. So we'll want to go ahead and flip that right side up so that it loads in the way that we expect. So there's that, and then we don't have to worry about any of this extension stuff. I think all we need is... I mean, I suppose I could do this, but I think I'm just going to use the STB functions and say the heck with it. So here it is. So for each one of these maps, so let's do for U32 I equals 0, I is less than map type max plus plus I, and in this case, we're going to say if maps sub I file path, right? If we have a file path. In fact, you know what? If we don't have a file path, I'm just going to do load default, and then continue. Actually, I guess I don't. Yeah, let's do continue. Otherwise, load the image data. Okay, so in this case, we're going to say maps sub I data equals stbi load from file. Let's see, do we have one? File name. Yeah, I think that's the one I'm going to want. So file name is going to be maps sub I file path. And then X and Y, these are basically all outputs actually. So we need to say I32 X and Y, and then I32 channels in file. Oops. And then I32 channels required. And we're going to set that to 4. We can actually const that. And so we can say address of X, address of Y, address of channels in file, and required channels required. All right. And then if for some reason there is not maps sub I dot data, we are going to bleat about it. So we're going to say k fatal failed to load file, and we'll say the file name, and I think we actually have. Do we have? I thought there was some sort of error handling in here somewhere. Do we have that? I guess not. I suppose if we have an issue, we can debug it. Whatever. I'm not worried about it right now. So failed to load file. And then this is going to be maps sub I file path. And we're going to return -5. Or I guess -6. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Different error codes for different messages, right? Level Up Design. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Welcome. Let's see. Is there any new Java production code bases or just legacy code? That's what I've been told. I mean, I would imagine that there are. Java's still very widely used across the board, right? It's used for all kinds of things like embedded devices and stuff like that. I feel like it's used a lot in like quote unquote bespoke like Android powered devices that are like super specific tailored. Like for example, the I don't know if you guys can see it, but I've got a picture frame back there. It's a digital picture frame. It just kind of cycles pictures, stuff like that, right? I feel like that's the place that it's most commonly used these days. All right. So we load the data for each one of these if we have that available. If we don't, then we have to figure out what to actually plug in there. So I think probably what I'm going to do is we're going to wait to load the default until we load all of our images data first. And the reason I'm going to do that is because we actually need to know the X and Y size and the number of channels, I guess, and make sure that this stuff matches up, right? Because our images need to be the same size when we go to combine them, or otherwise it's not going to work. Financial sector still loves Java? Yes, that's true. A lot of banks completely replaced COBOL with Java. A lot, but not all. COBOL is still very, very much in demand, for sure. I had to do some of it at a previous job. I remember installing Java, and the installer was present on more than X billion devices, which was super funny when there was like a Java security exploit. Let's see. Been MIA for 2 weeks due to holidays and vacay, trying to catch up in the usual dev channels. Visits. Made a lot of progress. Yeah, we actually did make a lot of progress. So if it's been 2 weeks plus potentially, so we've got all of our descriptor refactor done. We got all of our shadow mapping stuff done, and that's all in place and working. And now what we're doing is we're sort of tweaking the PBR pipeline and combining some texture maps in order to kind of make that process a little bit easier and more efficient, right? At least from a GPU perspective, right? So what we're doing is we're taking our metallic, roughness, and AO maps, and we're going to combine those into a single texture because we only need really one channel of data for each. And so we're just writing a little utility here to take in a list of file names, and then we're going to basically combine that data together into a single file. Is there any new Java? Wait, I already read that one. Okay. I think I'm caught up, actually. Log4j drama. Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. All right. So actually, we need these things. Actually, we need in our little structure here. So let's put that. And we'll do width and height instead, because that's actually what it is, right? Channels I'm not so concerned about. All right, so we'll do maps sub I width, maps sub I height, and maps sub I channels and file. All right. So we're just going to skip anything that doesn't have a file path in it, load up the ones that do, and then we're going to iterate this again and apply our default data. So in this case, we're going to do the opposite here. And we're going to say if there's no file path, instead of continuing, we're going to fill that with default data. So we'll say, I guess we can say, I guess we should probably compare file sizes first and validate that, and then fill this stuff out. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So int, or I should say i32. i32. Width equals -1. We're going to start off at -1. Actually, no. Yeah. i32 height equals -1. Reason we're starting off with -1 because that's a known sane but invalid value. And we're going to basically compare width and height on each one of these passes to make sure that what we're looking at is valid. Let's see. Have to watch VODs later. It's 3 a.m. for me. Need some sleep. Bye. All right. Cool. See you later, Beat Watcher. Appreciate you being here. Get a good night of sleep. So let's do this. If how do I want to check this? So if we have a file path, then we can say if width equals -1 or height equals -1. then we'll go ahead and set those things. So we'll say maps width, will be width equals maps width, and then same for height. Right. All right, and then otherwise, we're going to validate that the dimensions match, right? So in this case, dimensions not set, use first dimension. So what we'll say is if maps sub I dot width is not equal to width, or maps sub I dot height is not equal to height, then k error, all texture maps must be the same width and height. Right, and we're gonna essentially, we'll just return, right? Return an error code, right? So we'll validate that all the dimensions match. Then we'll come down here and we'll say if width equals -1 or height equals -1, k error, unable to obtain width and height, no textures set, question mark, and return -8. Right, so we'll validate that these things got set, and now we can actually go through and fill out the default data. So we will do that here. Which actually, it just occurred to me that we need to look at ones with a file path to do this. Because ones without a file path are not going to have that, right? Okay, so that's good. And now if we don't have a file path, we can leave that empty, but we'll actually set up the data. So maps sub I data equals kallocate. Do we not have our memory functions in here? Oh, I don't think we do we? Nope, I think we just got to use regular malloc here because we don't want to use our memory subsystem. Right, so we're going to say size of U8 times width times height times 4, because that's the channel count that we want, right? And then if I equals map type, let's see, AO's default is 1, roughness default is metallic and roughness, I think. Do both of those? I know metallic defaults to 0. So if it's AO, we have to fill this with 1s, right? Let me look at texture system. Defaults. Roughness texture. Default. Here we go. Create default texture. Oh, okay. So the default roughness texture is actually a medium gray. Metallic texture, default is black. AO is white. Okay, so actually we have two different things here. Map type, roughness. Alright, so this is going to be white, and then this is going to be medium gray. So, I think probably the way to do this is just going to be like this same pattern that we're doing here, right? So roughness pixels. Oh, I don't have memory, do I? I think this is just a pass-through to memset, if I remember correctly. Platform set memory. Memset, yeah. So dest value size. Which, you know what? Honestly, I have to do this loop anyways. I'm just going to do that, I think. Right. It's not going to take us that long. So let's do... I don't know how to do this. I guess literally the same thing, right? So instead of channels, that's going to be 4. And then this is going to be maps I data. And same thing here. And then this is going to be the alpha. $255. All right. George Smiley Face raiding with a party of 5. Thank you so much for the raid. I appreciate that. Welcome, raiders. George Smiley Face, what were you working on tonight? What are you up to? What Vim theme are you using? I am using Adawata. I will drop that in the chat, actually. Let me do that over on the YouTube side as well. That is the name of the theme I'm using. Also, I have my entire NeoVim configuration listed there, so I will drop that as well on both sides so that you guys can read up about that. I wrote an article on my website detailing it. It's about 95% accurate. There are some updates I've made, but that's mostly it, right? Oh, you were not present for a second? Yeah, I was just asking what you were up to. What were you streaming? Jarius with a tier 1 subscription. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the support. Thank you. Really appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Okay, so what we're doing right now is we are building a game engine from scratch. I guess I could take a second and just do a quick intro for you guys. So we are building a game engine from scratch called the Kohi Game Engine. And it's built in C using Vulkan as its initial rendering backend. Eventually, it will also support DirectX and Metal at a minimum. Maybe OpenGL, we'll see. The entire thing started off as a project, as like a tutorial series on YouTube. and then changed formats over the last couple of years, and we eventually settled on live streaming on Twitch, and I've been streaming here for about a year. And so the entire project is free and open source. It's available on GitHub. And so I'll actually drop a link in chat here. Basically what we're looking at here is an Apache 2.0 license, which says if you want to use Kohi, that's totally cool. All you have to do is say that you used it. That's it. And so thank you very much for the follows, by the way. This is 100% free. It's 100% open source. There will never be any licensing fees of any kind. There will never be any sort of royalties of any kind. None of the content that we're doing here on Twitch or on YouTube is paywalled. I believe that education should be free and freely available. And so everything that we do here is 100% free, right? The only support that I get is via Patreon and Twitch subscriptions and YouTube memberships, right? And or Ko-fi, right? Yeah, the whole idea here is to learn how to build a game engine completely from scratch, from the ground up. And that is what we have been working on all of this time. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Random question, but what would be a great way to programmatically draw shapes to create a library as a way to learn? And do you recommend any math I should learn as well? So I'll answer the math question first. Linear algebra, right, is like you got to at least understand the concepts behind linear algebra, right? Khan Academy has some great videos on that for free. Also, there's a channel on YouTube. I think it's like, what is it? What's the name of it? Hang on a second. One brown, three blue, I think it's called. 3 blue, 1 brown. I'll drop that here, actually. And so what that is a that's a math channel, right? And he's got all kinds of really, really good resources on math, right? That's an excellent resource, and it's animated and it's really explained very clearly, right? And so that's a fantastic resource. Yeah, 3 blue, 1 brown. Yep. And so there's that. In terms of what would be a great way to programmatically draw shapes and create a library as a way to learn? That kind of depends on where your skills stand at, right? Because there's multiple levels of that, right? It doesn't sound like you're at a level where maybe jumping into full-blown Vulkan is the right move. But you might have better luck using OpenGL or maybe even WebGL, which is sort of the web-powered variant of that. That might be a place that you can look. If you're interested in 2D only, then maybe you could use the 2D Canvas API in a web browser, right? That's another place where you could learn some of those concepts. But yeah, I would probably maybe have a look at some tutorials on WebGL, right? And just do a little bit of reading up on that. Because WebGL is pretty simple. It uses JavaScript, which I know JavaScript, right? But like as a learning utility, that's a good thing. If you're interested in enrolling C, like what we're doing here, then WebGL or OpenGL rather is the place to learn for that, right? So you'll want to learn modern OpenGL, which is considered anything OpenGL 3.3 plus. I would say that's even too old, but yeah. Mostly just a 3D programmer, or should I say heavily interested? Okay, yeah, so that might be OpenGL might be a good place for you to start then. I wonder what's the purpose of VK image usage transient attachment bit. You know what? I've never used it, but I'll tell you what. We will look at the old spec and see if we can't figure it out, right? Specifies that implementations may support using memory allocations with the memory property lazily allocated bit to back an image with this usage. Huh. I'm guessing this is like lazy loaded memory, but meaning that you don't actually have to allocate it until you need it. Oh, yeah, ads. That's my guess. I've also never used lazily allocated bit either, so. Let's see. So for you raiders and new folks here to the stream, whenever ads come up, by the way, I should probably explain this. On Twitch, we get served ads once every 30 minutes for 90 seconds. And so essentially what I like to do is pause the stream during that time so that anybody that is watching the stream doesn't miss content, right? It's only 90 seconds. It goes by pretty quick. But I feel like if you're watching a programming stream where things are being discussed in detail, it sucks to try and figure out that little window, what's going on there, and then you can't hear anything, right? So we just like to pause the stream for that. And take a second to hydrate. Let me see. All right, so we got about 5 seconds left on ads. All right, so I'm going to search up this lazily allocated bit and see what that is all about. Specifies that the memory type only allows device access to the memory. Memory types must not have both lazily allocated and host visible. Additionally, the object's backing memory may be provided by the implementation lazily as specified in lazily allocated memory. Okay, so it is lazy allocation. But apparently it's only device access. You can't use it for host visible. So that's interesting. I don't know what that would be used for, to be completely honest. I might eventually have a use for it, though, once we get into more advanced stuff. You never know. Yeah, it's very odd. I mean, I can think of maybe some scenarios where that might be useful, but I can't imagine why you would specifically want to do that, except for like some extreme edge case thing. Maybe, would that be useful for texture streaming? I don't even think so. Not more so than the other stuff that we're already, yeah, I don't know. It seems very, very specific to some specific need. I don't know what that need would be. Yeah, and the spec, of course, is, you know, it tells you technically what it is, but it doesn't really explain what a usage might be. I think the Vulkan spec would be so much better if they would provide some examples on occasion for stuff. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is texture streaming needs host visibility unless you use a staging buffer. But then, how is that really... I don't know how it helps, I guess, is what I'm saying. Unless it's textures that purely have to be... that purely reside on the GPU and are only ever modified on the GPU by other GPU processes. Not 100% sure, right? Bad Como, hello. Welcome to the stream. All right, so this is our roughness, which is medium gray. So that's 128 for RGB. And then we're still going to do full alpha for, or fully opaque, right? So the next thing we're going to do is for white, we are going to do... Actually, this doesn't even need to be this complicated, right? For this, it's literally going to be... let's see. U32 count equals... that, and then we're going to do U32I equals 0. I is less than count plus I. Right, and we're just gonna, maps I data. Shoot, I can't use I. Because I need this right there. Right. Oh, did I forget a closing? I must have. Or I had an extra one. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to fill that with white. For the ambient occlusion as the default, and then for roughness, it'll be medium gray. For metallic, the default is black, which is zeros. Well, you know what? Malik doesn't give us that, though. I guess I could... Whoops. You know what? Let's do... else if map type AO. Or, no, not AO. Metallic. Malik doesn't zero our memory out for us, which is the only place I'm actually using Malik because it's an external tool. So I'm gonna be lazy and set it that way. All right, so we loop through each one of our maps. If there's no file path, we set it up with default data, right? And then we're ready to combine them. Let's see. Do you have one staging buffer you use for all data transfers? Yes. I think there might be one exception where there's a staging buffer I create on the fly, but 90% of it, yeah, uses the same staging buffer. Yeah, it's a big one. Yep. And so basically, it gets sort of reset on every frame. So if I'm in the middle of a frame, I've basically just got a pointer that just moves forward in that buffer, and I just use that memory as it goes. And at the end of the frame, I just reset it. So yeah, that's essentially where it... let's see. I had to look into Direct3D 11. It's a shame there's no callback in the debug layer to easily log it. I feel like there was something available, but I can't remember what it was because it's been a minute since I've looked at DirectX. I've written about 1,500 lines of C and no triangle. You got school, though. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, welcome to Vulkan, right? Especially if you're writing like a full-blown engine. I know on this series we didn't have a render. We weren't even clearing to the screen until episode 21, just because we got other subsystems and stuff set up early. Direct3D 12, there's a callback. I don't remember about Direct3D 11. Yeah, that's the thing. I can't remember either. It's faster to write a software rasterizer than writing Vulkan Hello Triangle. Modern graphics programming people. Yes, 100%. 100% nailed it on the head. All right. So at this point, we're ready to combine the data. The data. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up another buffer. That's going to be a U8. Target buffer equals malloc, and there's going to be a size of u8 times width times height times 4. And we're going to take this loop right here because this one actually makes the most sense to use. All right. So we're going to loop through each row, then each column, and we're essentially going to set data. We're going to change this to target buffer. Right, and we're going to say index bits per pixel plus 1, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to set the data here to the appropriate pixel from the appropriate map. So this is going to be, what did we say we're going to do this? I think it was metallic, roughness, and then AO. So we want the maps metallic data index bits per pixel plus 0. Right? And so that'll copy over essentially the red value for that. Yeah, that should be fine. I could make this into a loop, but I'm not going to bother. All right. So we're going to do metallic and then roughness and then AO. And then this is going to be 1 and this is going to be channel 2. And then 3 is reserved, right? That's the alpha. So we're not doing anything there. We don't need to modify it. Oh, we have malloc. Yeah, we do actually need to modify it. We do actually need to modify it. So we'll just set it to fully opaque for now, right? So that's reserved. If we want to add a fourth map to this, we could very easily do that. And now all we have to do is essentially write this back. Which actually I've never used STBI to actually write out an image. So I don't know. I think that might actually be a separate library. I'm not 100% sure. Can we write on this? I don't think so. I think that's actually a separate library if I recall correctly. All right, so let me go grab that. All right, so this is where I'm grabbing it from. STB. Image right, I thought so. So this is the right header. Let's see. Define right implementation, so I'll have to do that. Okay, so let's get the raw of this. I'm going to use that. Sean Barrett kicks ass, by the way. All right, so let's write this first. And then we'll go here, and next to our STB image, we will do STB image right.h. Open that up. Paste in all that logic. Just make sure that... Why does it look like the... All right, so we need this at the top. So put that there, and then we'll include vendor stb image right. All right. So down here, should just be able to do stbi write. Let's see, what do we want to write? Probably PNG. Want to write a PNG or do we want a Targa? Guess we could change it later, right? File name, I'll just put that for now. We'll come back. So width, height. I assume that's channels. And then data is going to be target buffer. Int stride and bytes. I assume that's going to be 32. No, bytes, not bits. 4. I think that's what we're going to want. Right? We probably ought to also provide a file name in the arguments, right? Should probably also do that. Width times channels, yeah. Oh, you're thinking the stride bytes is, wait. That would be, well, the width is 1, right? Because it's all U8s we're using, so it would technically still be 4. If what you're saying, if width is, you mean byte width, then yeah, it's 4. Because we're explicitly using 4 channels. We need a file name. We should probably specify one. Oh, the width of the image? Oh. Wait, shouldn't it be able to get that from this? I better read the stbi write PNG. Compression level. I'm not going to worry about compression level right now. I just want to see it work. Let's see. Left to right, top to bottom. Comp channels of data stored and interleaved with 8 bits per channel. Yeah, that makes sense. 4 is RGBA. That's good. Okay, that's the format we have. Y is monochrome color. That makes sense. Rectangle is W pixels wide and H pixels tall. The data pointer points to the first byte of the leftmost pixel, top leftmost pixel. Stride in bytes is the distance in bytes from the first byte. It is a row of pixels. Why, though? That's bizarre. Okay. I would not have expected it to work that way, because you could derive that information from this. Does the PNG encoder still do actual compressing? Still not do actual compressing? I have no idea. I don't think so, but at this point, I'm not really. Let's see. PNG allows you to set the defaults to 8 compression. Where was the compression levels? I saw that in here somewhere. I feel like that was towards the top. STBI write PNG compression level. Does it give any? Oh, here we go. Okay. Defaults to 8, set to higher for more compression. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, but what the heck is the... What's the upper limit of that? You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. Oh, 9. He just wanted something saved quick? Yeah. Just like in zlib, which is actually literally what it's using. Where did I see it? I just saw that a second ago. Right here. It's using zlib. Yeah. Yeah, so that makes sense. And honestly, like, if I'm looking for something more robust, I can always write something more robust, right? Like, if I could always change this to write out KTX or something instead. But for now, something quick and dirty should work just fine. All right, so I guess the next argument is going to have to be, we'll say out file equals file name. So we'll have to add one more thing here. We'll call this out file. And instead of that, we'll need a out file path. Let's just make this a stupidly long path, right? And we'll do string copy out file path parts 1, and we'll do 1024. And then we can do a check against out file path, because out file path is actually correct, or required rather. So if not, actually if I could just check the first character, honestly. Yeah. Out file path 0 equals 0. Parameter out file is required. Usage out file equals file name. Return -4. All right. So we'll have an out file, so we can use that here. Out file path. And what does this actually return? I'm guessing the number of bytes written. Let's see. Returns 0 on a failure and a non-zero on a success. Okay. So I guess we could just literally say if not, right? Error writing out file. All right. Otherwise, we should be good to go. All right. Build this real quick. Unused variable map type string. Oh, I guess I didn't wind up using that because I didn't need that. Where was that? Oh, here. We don't need that. Let's see. LS Leets. Do you have any recommendation on where to start learning graphics programming? I know C++ quite well. Tried following your YouTube series, but got lost quickly once Vulkan started. Yeah, that's fair. If you've never done graphics programming before, Vulkan is going to be an overload for sure. I would take a look at... probably I would start with OpenGL. And I say that with an asterisk, right? The reason I say start with OpenGL is because it's a much simpler API, but it is considered deprecated. It's not being updated anymore. Deprecated is not the same as obsolete, right? So OpenGL is still very alive and well. There are new applications still being developed in it, but it is not receiving any more updates, right? So it's important to bear that in mind, that it's not the future of graphics programming. But the reason I suggest it is because you can use it to quickly get up and running with graphics programming concepts at a high level and use that to your advantage. So I would definitely start looking at OpenGL. There are a number of sites that you can use for that. Learn OpenGL is the one that a lot of people point to, but I will caution you on something. Don't get stuck in a tutorial loop either, right? Make sure that you break away from those and kind of do your own thing once you understand the basics, right? Look at the code, understand it, and try to grasp all of what it's doing, and then write your own version of that. Because if you just copy paste code, you're not ever going to learn it, right? So that would be the one thing I'd caution you about. And then once you actually have some experience with that and understand it, then I would make the jump to Vulkan sooner rather than later. OGL Dev is also really, really good. Yeah. So that's kind of my stance on that, right? Vulkan is the way to go long term, but short term, OpenGL, just to get up to speed, right? Wrap your head around the concepts. All right. Let's see. Let me catch up on YouTube chat. Looks like you guys are just kind of chatting between yourselves. Learning C is the only correct way to start learning C++, since C is significantly easier to understand, and pretty much everything learned from it works with C++, since it's pretty much an extension of C. 100% agreed. I suggest that to people all the time. You will be a much better C++ programmer if you understand C first. You think suffering is better because it teaches you more stuff? Yep. I mean, it's, sometimes, at least when you're learning, doing things the long manual hard way is actually a little bit better until you understand what's going on, right? Sometimes that does really make sense. We're going to have ads here in just a second. Jordan Leto, first time chat, hello. We're about to have an ad break, but I will answer your question when we come back from that, because I think that's about to kick over. And we like to pause the stream for that. LS Leets, no problem. Let me know if you need any other advice on that. All right, so we're pausing the stream just because we like to make sure that nobody misses content. And on Twitch, we are served ads once every 30 minutes for 90 seconds. So we go ahead and pause the stream so that nobody misses anything, right? So we have a little bit over a minute left, and then we will we'll be right back, right? Let's see. Okay. I'm going to take a second and just hydrate while we're on ad break. Bad Como, you're saying that as somebody who did go straight to C++? Yeah, so I did the same thing. And there were concepts in C++ that I didn't fully understand until I actually programmed in C. And then all of a sudden, it made a lot more sense, right? So, yeah, I definitely feel like I did it backwards, which is why I try to warn people to do it the other way around, for sure. All right. All right, so I think ads are just about done. All right, ads are dead. Cool, we're back. Magettes, let's see. Web GPU could be a good option instead of OpenGL if it was not still being actively changed every now and then. Yeah, it's only actively supported on Chrome as far as I'm aware, right? And yeah, it's still too new, I think, to be completely honest. That being said, you could also experiment with WebGL if you're really looking to get up and running. But if you already know C/C++, definitely go OpenGL instead. But if you're new to all of it, WebGL could also be a lower barrier to entry. To be honest, I hate web development, everything around web dev with a passion. Me too, yet I do it as my daily job. It is what it is, right? I will try to go the OpenGL C route. But thanks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. If you're already familiar with C, then yeah, 100%. WebGPU is just the name of the API interface. You can use it with C, Rust. Yeah, you can also use WebAssembly. But yeah, I don't... I mean, I'll mess with it at some point just because it's a tech out there that exists, but... What kind of language do you use at your other job? So at my day job, I use TypeScript, which transpiles into JavaScript. Because it's a web-based application that I write or I work on, and it revolves currently around WebGL, but eventually it'll probably switch over to WebGPU as well. Any Lisp experience? Not really, no. I haven't really used Lisp at all outside of attempting an Emacs config. That was about as close as I got to it, right? All right. Part count unused. I guess I don't have to keep that. I could, I suppose, like, use that for verification, but I'm not going to worry about it for right now. Do you think only supporting Latin 1.8859 is valid? If you're talking, you mean like character encoding? I would say no. Pretty much any application out there should support UTF-8 these days. Yeah, that's pretty much that. Yep. All right. So what we basically need to do is I'm going to open I'm going to open a terminal here. And we're going to say bin. Oh, why did this open in command prompt? Gross. Don't want that. All right. So we have our tools exe. So we'll say tools combine, and then we'll do out file equals no spaces. Out file equals up one level assets textures. Let me open up this. Let me open this up here so I can see what the heck I'm doing. We're going to try our application and see how it works, right? See if we got it right on the first try. I doubt it. There's probably something stupid I missed, but we're going to try it. So the one we're looking at here is this wavy sand. That's the one we want to convert first because that has all the maps, right? So let's see. Can I scroll that up any so that you guys can actually see it? I guess not. I think it's behind my head. Let me move this up a little bit so you guys can see what I'm typing. All right, so assets textures, and we want wavy sand, and we'll call this combined.png. And then the next thing is we want our metallic equal to up one level assets textures wavy sand. Let's see. I think it's just metallic. .png. Yep, it's PNG. Okay. And then roughness equals assets textures wavy sand roughness, and then AO equals textures wavy sand AO .png. And I realized I forgot the file extension here. That would have been bad. Let me just reread this. So, tools, combine, out file, assets, textures, wavy sand, combined, PNG. Metallic is assets, textures, wavy sand, metallic, PNG. Roughness is assets, textures, wavy sand, roughness, PNG. And then AO is assets, textures, wavy sand, AO, PBG. Fix that. All right, let's see if it works. Oh, I forgot to type tools exe. I hate that you have to do that on Windows. It's really annoying. Really? Tools exe is right there. What are you talking about? We are in... Oh, I think I have to do like / or something stupid. Okay, did it do the thing? Let me open a... Oops. Let's take a look at our assets. Textures. Probably should have put some like confirmation message in there, but I'm not 100% sure if it worked or not. I don't see it here. But we didn't get any output either. Interesting. So we may actually have to debug this, right? So what I'm going to do, I think, copy this and go into our debugger. And let's go to launch. And we're going to do launch kohi tools and insert some arguments. So I'm just going to paste this here or I'm not going to paste it here apparently. Did that not copy? Copy. Okay. All right. So we don't need this. Our first argument is going to be combine. Our next argument is going to be out file with the path. Our next one is going to be metallic. Copied from the clipboard apparently. All right. Roughness is next. It's interesting that I didn't get any error messages or anything. Oh, okay. I don't think... Yeah, I don't need that. All right. Okay, so... Let's do this workspace folder thing. Since we have it, we might as well use it, right? Instead of doing that, do this for our paths. Get rid of all of this junk. All right, so in theory, we should take our textures from these guys and combine them and write a combined out file there. Okay, so let's go to close others, tools main, and combine texture maps. And I guess we'll start, we'll just put a breakpoint here. And I launched the wrong application. Change this to launch kohi tools. Let me catch up on chat real quick. Do you remember the TV show called Dirty Jobs? It was was web development ever involved in it? Should have been. That's pretty good though. I do remember that show actually. I was struggling with relative paths like 5 minutes ago. Yeah. Have you considered trying the Remedy debug? It's not a free debugger, but it's not mine. Yeah, I think it's like $30 or something like that, isn't it? Or $40 maybe. I've thought about it, but the thing is, like, I'm only actually temporarily on Windows right now. I prefer to stream on Linux. And so that's Windows only, so it won't really do me any good there. Which is the reason I've kind of stuck with this one, because it's cross-platform. But yeah, I've heard really good things about it, but it would really suck to get used to using it. And then, yeah, C or GDB is one of the ones that I'm experimenting with right now, actually. That one seems pretty good. I'm playing around with a couple of different ones. There's also GF2 is another one that I've been playing with. All right, so we have 6 arguments. So let's see if... Let's kill these. So we'll do parts 2. Oh, that's neat. So our string split apparently just... What is in this then? null. What is argc? 6. But I is 2. Right? Okay, there's the, that's the executable path. Second argument is combine. The next one is out file. What am I missing here? Why is... Oh, because I'm an idiot. That's why. I put argc here instead of I. Derp. Where was that? Qt created for the win. Good IDE debugger. How heavy is that though? Because that was the whole reason I switched away from Visual Studio, was because of the heaviness of it. Heard good things about C-Line debugger. Yeah, I've heard about that too, but I'm pretty sure that's also a yearly license, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's a 285 meg install. Well, that's certainly better than Visual Studio, which is gigs. Man, I kind of want to get into Vim, but I feel like I won't ever get used to it. I used to feel it's the same way until, honestly, I kind of like ripped the Band-Aid off and started using it daily at work. And it kind of hit hard for like a week. But then I started getting used to it. And now I use it every day at work and at home, and it's second nature. So, yeah, it didn't take me very long to get to that point either. Especially once I got my Vim configured the way I wanted it. Okay. So. I built this already, I think, but... Okay. So let's try this again. Maybe with 1% less derp. There we go. Okay, there's our string split. Okay, so we have our parameter name here and the value for that. All right, so out file path right now is just 0, so that should now be, yep, okay, cool. Metallic. That's... Wait, why did that fail? Oh, because I didn't allocate memory for it, that's why. More derp. All right, what I should be doing here is, instead of this should be set equal to string duplicate. Right, so this is type metallic roughness. Right? That makes more sense. This one's fine. Doesn't need to do that. And I'm not even going to worry about cleaning up the memory on that because it's a small application. And I don't care. I just want it to work at the moment. All right, so let's debug this again. Taman, have a good one. Very busy day. Wait, see you tomorrow. Yeah, same for me, honestly. You've used Qt Creator a few times. It's pretty good and not so resource heavy. Stop right there, criminal scum. You're breaking law. I love it. All right, so I think it was the second one that it was failing on. Yeah, so I think that's going to be good now. Let's just run it the rest of the way through and see if it does anything. Oh, did I call kallocate a whole bunch of times? Whoops. Oh yeah, because I think that's what this does. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're trace warnings anyways. So does this mean... Oh, I saw the file list move. We have our combined PNG file. Now, I don't know about you, but that ain't right. It looks like it wrote one row of data for some reason. So, okay. Let me open this up in... It's only 160K too, for a 2048 by 2048 image. That's not, let me see, open with. Take a look at this real quick and see what it generated. Not a whole lot. So... It looks like it literally just did a single pixel of data for some reason. So that tells me that I did something stupid in my loop. All right, let's see. So I think that issue is going to be, it's probably not reading the images in, I don't think. Let's actually debug it, right? Let's go down here. So let's put a breakpoint here, right? Because at that point we should have like the width and the height and all that kind of stuff. Let me make sure that I'm not using double using I somewhere where I should be. Or I should not be, rather. This all looks okay to me. Alright, so none of our maps actually should have an empty file path. So actually, wait a minute. Oh, this should be map type max -1. Should only have 3 maps in here. Why did I say 4? This should be 3. Qt Creator has a built-in Vim mode. That's kind of sweet. You might have just convinced me to take a look at it, actually. Oh, this is just texture atlases? Not quite. Because what we're doing is we're actually taking multiple textures and combining them into one, and then we're going to read the channel data from each channel to get the data that we need. So, I mean, you could kind of think of it like an atlas, kind of, but an atlas usually uses square portions of an image versus individual channels. Question, why not using map type metallic equals 0 instead of using the last? You mean this one? Like, why not set it to 0? Was that what you mean? Because this is set to 0 by default. Yeah. So with enumerations, they always default to being 0 as the first value, unless you set it otherwise. If that's what you meant. Okay, so actually we don't need... Well, I guess I could debug over this, right? So we should skip this logic 3 times and then be done, right? Oh. I see the issue. You guys see what the issue is? Copy pasta strikes again. And it's also going to be an issue up here. So, this needs to be width. This needs to be height. This needs to be width. Right? So this is width. This is width. This is height. So why the need of assigning the last 3 or 4? I'm not sure what you mean by that. The last 3 or 4 of what? Are you talking here? Oh, the max type. Yeah, the max type is basically just saying, well, I mean, I guess I don't have to explicitly say it, right? I could literally just not say it at all, right? And it's still going to wind up being the same value. It's still going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's it. Amuga, first time chat, welcome. Great beards, man. Thank you. Appreciate that. Because every time you're adding stuff, you need to modify. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking of something else when I initially wrote that, but I wound up not going that direction. So, yeah, makes more sense that way. Yep. Good call. Okay. So now that we are actually loading in all of the data, I'm going to, and I know the file gets written, I'm going to like kill the breakpoint and just run this. And take a look at that file again. Here it is. That's more in line with what I expected to see. Awesome. So, let me open this again in Affinity. Just because that's what I happen to have installed on this. And so this image might not make very much sense the way we're currently looking at it, right? But if we take a look at the individual channel data, it makes a whole lot more sense. So red, if you recall, let me minimize this guy. Red, if you recall, was our metallic, right? So our red channel is completely black because our default metallic is black, and this particular texture map is black. And actually we can verify that by going here, right? So the original texture map is black. So it's just copied that, right? So if we go back here and we take a look at green, if you look really closely, you can actually see the variance in the texture in there, right? So our green channel, If I can grab the freaking window here. Our green is our roughness, okay? So if we take a look at the roughness, it looks the same, right? So if we combine that, or compare that to this guy, right? They're the same, right? And then if we take a look at blue, that's our ambient occlusion, which was this guy. So what we've effectively done is now cut the number of maps that we need to use in 3. And, oh crap, there's an ad break. Completely missed that. I'll have to re-review this when ads are over. Sorry about that, guys. We got about 42 seconds left of ads, and then we'll be done with that. So I thought the next ad break was like way further out. All right, so let me see here. Ads are just about done. All right, ads are dead. All right, so let me just catch up on chat here, and then I'll re-review what we just looked at, because I didn't realize we were in the middle of an ad break. Yes, you can use it for X macros also. Use what for X macros? What do you mean by that? Why don't you go wild on the hairstyle? I mean, I am actually growing my hair out for the 4th time, actually. So one thing that I like to do that I've done several times in my life is I grow my hair out really long, usually down to about my waistline. And then I keep it like that for a bit, and then I cut it off and donate it to cancer patients. So I've done that a number of times in my life, and I'm starting that process again. I've only been growing it out for a few months now, so it's going to be a while before I can do that. But yeah, theoretically, that is what I'm doing with my hairstyle, right? I'm letting it grow. All right, so before we were so rudely interrupted by ads, I was talking about this red, right? So red is our metallic. Green is our roughness. So if we take a look at our roughness map here, this looks the same, right? It's not actually just gray. It's you can see there's some slight variation in there. This matches that, right? If we take a look at blue, blue is the most obvious one in this case. This is our ambient occlusion map. And so if we take a look over here, we have our ambient occlusion, which is right there, right? Same image. And so effectively what we've done is we've just taken our texture count and our texture bandwidth, and we've like chopped it in a third, right? At least for these maps, right? And so now what we can do is we can actually run this process on all of our various materials, which that'll take me a hot minute. And we'll convert all of these to get our combined textures. And I will then reference the combined image in the material. And we'll create a different entry in the material settings for a combined map and eliminate these other maps, right? So that's the goal. I don't think we're going to get all the way through that tonight, but we'll see how far we can get. So I think what I'm going to do is, now that we know that this is working on this one example, I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them offline, and we'll focus on the code for tonight. And then I'll probably push this code at the end of the stream into like a sub feature branch. And then I'll convert all of these guys offline. And we'll go from there, right? Okay, so PBR when? We already have PBR. We already have a PBR pipeline. It already is a thing. It already exists. So let me go back to the test bed and I will show you what it currently looks like. No, you don't want 4K ultra realistic PBR. Eventually. Yeah, that's still a ways off. There's still a bunch of things we have to do, before we actually get to that point, right? Oh, I hit the wrong button. There's still a pretty reliable way to crash this if you hit the wrong button. But yeah, so PBR is it's a very interesting set of concepts, I'll say, because it's not even really just one concept, it's a set of concepts, right? And so, see, this is what I mean about my frame rate, by the way. Like, OBS is eating my frame rate alive right now. Because when I run this and I'm not streaming, I'm like 70 plus frames a second. But PBR is like a set of concepts in terms of how lighting works based on actual physical properties of materials, right? Vulkan Performance Heart, yeah. This is one of the reasons that I'm looking to switch my streaming PC. I'm going to switch my streaming setup over to the Mac and use that to handle all of the processing for this, right? To get it off this machine because of this reason. Because when I'm not streaming, it's fine. Yeah, and actually, YouTube is bleating about it now, which is hilarious. Yeah. So, to explain what the Mac is for, right? Am I still live over on the YouTube side? I think maybe, hopefully it's okay. Let me see what this is. Buffering, yeah, okay. That should smooth out in a minute over on the YouTube side. Okay, so what the Mac is for is I got that to port Kohi to Mac OS because that's one of our supported platforms, right? So I needed a machine that was capable of running this. And programming on it and being able to dev on it and troubleshoot and all that stuff. So that's what I wound up getting was a MacBook Pro, which is this guy right here. And it was an investment into the channel for sure. But it allows me to officially support Mac OS. So let's see. Do the two computer streaming setups, just use the capture card for that. Yeah, so basically what I have is, and I'm actually waiting on one more adapter. But basically what I'm going to use is this cam link, right? Make sure it's in frame. So I'm going to use that cam link to capture one of the monitors from the output of my desktop and feed that over to the Mac, right? And then from there, I can. I also am going to split the HDMI signal that goes to that to also the monitor that's right in front of me, so that I can still work on it, right? Because the only way I'd be able to do that right now is working on it through OBS, which sucks, right? So I'm waiting on a splitter. That's the thing I'm waiting on. But yeah, it's basically all the streaming related stuff is gonna run on the Mac, and then that'll free up resources on my desktop to actually do what I need to do. Because as somebody said earlier, graphics programming and streaming at the same time is a bit of a Russian roulette thing, right? So let's see. Is VK image usage input attachment bit for compute shaders? No, it's for input attachments, which is a whole concept that I don't necessarily want to get into for right now, but yeah, it's a type of attachment that you can have for a render pass / frame buffer. Trying to make sense of the spec. It's been a while since I've been dealing with Vulkan. Yeah, so the spec, and I think I made a short on my YouTube channel about this, but the spec is something that I read often. It's like I'll look up how to do something, and then I'll read the spec, and then I'll maybe read an article about that, and then I'll read the spec again, and then I'll try to implement the thing, and then I'll read the spec again, and yeah, it just goes back and forth. So you can use pre-rendered depth buffer, for example, I guess, yeah. Which actually is something I'm going to have to do at some point when I go to do a deferred renderer, right? Because we need to make a G buffer for that has a whole bunch of stuff that's rendered up front before we actually handle our lighting. So we will be visiting that at some point, for sure. All right, so let's get into, now that we have this, making our changes for the combined maps, because there's a several set of changes that we're going to have to do. So let me get rid of this. And see, I don't actually need this anymore, so I can get rid of that. All right. So we'll look at, I guess the best way to look at this is probably the shaders first in the shader config. So PBR fragment shader. So currently what we have right now is we have a few different bindings. We have an array of sampler 2Ds, which is our material textures. Right now, that's 5 textures. So our albedo, normal, metallic, roughness, and AO. But we're getting ready to eliminate 3 of those and replace them with 1, which essentially is going to do this, right? So we're essentially cutting 2 of these off. So it's going to be albedo, normal, and then combined, which contains those 3, right? And then we're going to do, up here, we'll do const int samp combined equals 2 and eliminate those. Now, one thing that I had thought that we could do potentially is use a sampler 2D array, but if we ever have materials where like the texture sizes are different sizes, we may not want to do that. So I'm going to hold off on doing that, and we're just going to keep it simple for right now, right? So we have that. Let's see. We will need to essentially update anything that is looking at those textures. And actually, that's going to be this right here. Right? So you can see right now here we were actually just doing a texture off of each of these samplers and then only taking the R channel. So this is extremely wasteful, right? So what I'm going to do instead is we're going to do vector 3. You know what? Let's do vector 4, because we might actually take the alpha for something one day. We'll call this combined and equals texture. Actually, I think I had that copied. Material textures, right? I did not have that copied. All right. Right? So this will give us a vector for RGBA. And then all we have to do here is change this to combined.r, combined.g, and combined.b, right? And so now we only sample one texture once, and we can just extract the values that we need, and that's it, right? So it simplifies this a lot. I don't actually think there's anything else we need to change in the shader. I think that's literally it. So there's that. There's the PBR shader config. So we'll just have to modify this. So instead of sampler 2D 5, it's now 3. And we do the same thing we did in the shader. We'll just call this combined, which contains those 3, right? So that's 3. That's done. The terrain shader is going to be a little bit more complex. So, the terrain material, we are going to do, let's call this combined offset. Remove those 2. And this we're going to do 3 times, right? Max terrain materials. So that's already going to lighten that load, right? Albedo normal, and then combined. Right? So that's that. Actually, this might not be as complicated as I was thinking it would be. I think this is actually going to be pretty simple too. So, these, I think, are the samples that we take. Yes, they are. So these are going to wind up being float arrays. Right? Because they're single values. And so we have, let's see, our albedos are here, our normals are here. And then what we'll do is we'll say vec4 combined is equal to that. And then we'll do samp combined offset. Right, we'll take that. And then all this is it becomes combine.r for metallics. Oops. Combine.g for roughnesses. Combined.b for AOs, ambient occlusions, right? And then we also have to modify this down here, right? Because we were taking the full sample into account, right? So we're doing a weighted blend here. And so all we need to do is actually remove the R off of all these, right? Because these are already a float array. So we just need to essentially remove the texture channel off because it's already a flat float. And this is going to be this. Right? And so here's our weighted blend of that, and then it's just used the same as it's used elsewhere afterwards. Let's see. Hierarchical depth buffer for occlusion culling. Yes. Eventually. We will get there eventually. For sure. Let's see. Scary Hutman. Did you also read the C standard, and how comfortable are you with C? I've read the C standard once or twice. It's been probably far too long since I've read it. I'm pretty comfortable with C. I switched to using C full-time a few years back, actually. So I would say I'm pretty comfortable with it, yeah. There are a couple things that I mess up here and there, or some C++ things that I still mess up on occasion. Like, I forget to put void instead of no parameters in functions sometimes when I'm defining them. Stuff like that, but yeah, I would say I'm pretty comfortable with that. I know there are things, there are extensions that I'm using and whatnot as well, but Crypto Racer, first time chat. Welcome to the stream. Love the name of the engine. Thank you. Yeah, I felt it was appropriate because I love coffee, and so it just I love coffee and I love all things Japan basically. So yeah, just it kind of seemed to fit, right? My cat is playing with a box over in the corner. It's very loud, but it's also deeply hilarious. All right. So I think that is actually the only other thing I need to do is I think that actually does it for this file. We just need to modify the config. So shader config, and this is mostly going to be just us changing the material textures, right? So essentially we have a max count of 4 materials, and then we have 3 textures per material, so that's going to be 12, right? So you can see how that adds up really quickly, where we've gone down from, you know, to render 4 materials, we've gone from 20 samplers down to 12, right? And probably what we're going to wind up doing as a second pass on this is we're going to use array textures for this instead. So, all right. So that's all the shader and shader config changes. Now the bigger part of this is going to be the material system. And we'll see how far we get into that tonight. All right, so let's see. Material shader, uniform locations. I don't even think this is used anymore. This is the old. This is the old one. I think this is a leftover. Yeah, that's what I thought. This can go. We removed that. All right, so samplers. This is for PBR, so we have combined. And then roughness, AO, shadow map. Actually, do we even use... I don't even think... Oh, right, because we still need it for the maps and the material. Okay. So we do need these in here. This needs to be 3 and 4. PBR material texture count is now 3. Terrain per material sampler count is also 3. So these will all fall into line, so those are fine. Let's see, PBR shader uniform locations. So we don't have to change that because that's material textures, so that's fine. We shouldn't have to change any location stuff, actually. We should be fine on that. So here's where we're getting the locations. That should all be fine. Might not actually have that much to change in here. Acquire terrain material. Oh, you know what? We're going to have to change the material configuration as well. That's what's going to be the pain. Alright. Oh, and material as well. Maybe. Acquire reference. Okay, so none of this stuff needs to change, I don't think. So this is kind of an interesting thing I hadn't thought about. So currently we have this metallic texture, this default metallic texture, default roughness texture, and default AO texture. which aren't really needed anymore. We really need to define like a default combined texture, right? So we're going to actually have to create that in code as well. Okay. Not a huge deal, just something I hadn't considered. So, if we peak definition on, I'm going to replace the metallic texture. Oops. And I'm going to call this, actually, you know what? Let me do a rename on this. Let's see if this works. And let's call this combined texture. Did work. Sweet. Okay. Per material sampler count is 3. So we don't need this anymore. Why is this bleating? Texture system C. Oh, you know what? I'm going to come back to that. Let's see. Actually, I'm not going to come back to it. I'm going to do it right now. Because I'm going to forget to do it otherwise. So default. Combine texture. So metallic, roughness, AO. And then we're going to get rid of roughness and AO. Let's go to texture system C. We're going to get rid of, let's see, let's do a rename. And we'll call this default combine texture. Get rid of these two. So our is default texture can just have that removed. Those two don't count for anything anymore. Our roughness texture and our AO texture, those are going bye-bye. Okay, so this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of finagling, right? So we have our metallic texture, our roughness texture, and our AO texture being created here. And basically we need to combine those three into one. Is essentially what we need to do. SIP 12. First time chat. Yeah, the music playing is from Heartbound, which is the game that's under development by Pirate Software. It's a fantastic looking RPG, and I can't wait for it to be finished. Let's see. With C23, void and nothing will become just like C++. Yeah, which is neat, but I don't necessarily want to use C23 anytime soon. Just because... when I eventually port this to consoles, I doubt consoles are going to support C23. I'd like to taste the coffee, but I'm not really one to drink it, though. A lot, though. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I try to limit myself to a cup a day. I used to drink like an entire pot of coffee a day. But, yeah, those days are long gone. Sometimes I drink coffee because I don't have anything better to drink. I'm trying to force myself to drink more water these days. So, I mean, I used to go all day and not have any water for years. Try not to do that anymore. Streaming helps with that, actually, because it kind of forces me to drink water because of all the talking. All right, so what we're going to do is combine these loops. So I'm going to keep this one. And we have ads. So for those of you who are new to the stream, on either side, we get served ads on Twitch every 30 minutes for 90 seconds. And so I like to go ahead and just pause the stream whenever those ads come up, just so that nobody misses any content. Because when you're explaining code or something as involved as this, generally it kind of sucks if you can't hear and see what's going on because ads are playing, right? So out of respect for the viewers, I like to pause because of that. So this is what I now know as Thor's Hype Train song. For those of you who don't know who Thor is, by the way, he's Pirate Software, and he's a game dev here on Twitch. Pretty large one these days. I'm sure probably most of you guys know who he is. And yeah, he had world record-breaking hype trains, and this is the song he was playing while those hype trains were running. So yeah, it always just it kind of cracks me up a little bit, you know? It's what I always think of this song as. You had a vague idea for some kind of fish game that you want to learn to develop a basic game engine to eventually create. Awesome. Yeah, do it. Definitely do it. Crypto Racer, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you know, start small, keep it simple, but get on it. Do it. Make that game. Lemon, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. All right, so what we're going to do is this is going to be 0, right? So default for metallic is 0, is black, we'll say, right? This one is actually going to be 128. Default for roughness is medium gray. And for this one, it's going to be 255. Default for AO is white. Oops. Right. And so we can get rid of, let's say combined. Metallic, roughness, AO texture. Right, each pixel. Okay, so we have that. This is going to be default combined. Instead of default roughness texture name, we're going to do default wow, did that really not work? Okay. Fine. Combined texture name. Combined metallic roughness AO. Okay. So we do the default combined texture name. Roughness pixels. Let's rename that to combined pixels. We're going to get rid of the metallic texture. Okay, so we create the default combined texture. The default AO texture is going away as well. All right, so now we have a 16 by 16 default combined texture. Destroy default textures. We only need to do less 2. Okay, I think we might have gotten everything. Let's see. Thank you for the content. Would love to make a Vulkan engine. I remember doing some tutorials when it first came out, so I can draw a triangle. Awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad you're enjoying the content. Right? There's plenty of it there. If there's there's a backlog if you're just getting started, but yeah, we definitely touch on a lot of stuff here. But we are making a full-fledged game engine, not just a renderer, right? So, Vulkan is only one aspect of the engine, technically speaking. But yeah, I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it. Feedback like that definitely helps me. It validates what I'm doing, right? So I appreciate that. Okay. I think the only... Let me go to the header file because I think there was one more thing here at the top. Yeah. So we have... Oh, I didn't change the actual value of this. So this should be... combined. And then we don't need the metallic texture name, and we don't need the AO default name. Okay. All right, so material system. This was kind of where I got sidetracked there. Okay, so we're creating our default textures, map names. So this needs to be combined is what we're going to call that. So when we create the actual texture maps and we configure them, combined is the name we're going to go with. Okay. Let's just change that comment to make it correct. All right, so this all looks good because we're using constants for our... Because we're using constants for stuff like this, we don't have to do a lot of refactoring. That's actually saving us a lot of time, which is pretty sweet. It's mostly like comments, right? Will be loaded in order, so we'll do combined, right? Okay, so this is the same. This is the same. This is going to be samp combined and samp combined. These two can go away. So these are the resource shader instance resource configurations. So again, it should just be deleting maps and changing names. So that looks pretty good. Okay. Let me see. What next? So globals shouldn't be affected by this at all. Locals will be, though. So this is going to be, now instead of 5 maps, it's going to be 3. So we have combined. Combined. Get rid of those two. Shadow maps, a radiance map, that shouldn't change. Terrain shader, this is just going to do them in order, so I think that should be fine. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so this should be 3, times 4, yeah, 12. Okay, yep, so that should be good. And then I think it's mostly default materials, I want to say. So load material. I still have to do this at some point too. Okay, here we go. So here's where we're reading it in from the config. So we're going to take metallic and replace that with combined. Combined default combined texture. And then we'll also do combined assigned. All right, and then that means that we can get rid of these two. Okay. Do we also have, let's see, combine assigned? We don't need those two either. So this is combined assigned. If it's not assigned, then we're going to get the default. So we're going to take this and combine texture. Config name is going to be combined. Roughness and AO go away. All right, that looks pretty good. Material type custom, I'm not worried about. PBR, here we go. Okay, so there's one more here. So we have combined and combined. Get rid of those. Material type custom, again, I'm not really worried about that. Okay, we're almost at the end of our code changes, believe it or not. So here's our default material creation. So I knew that there was going to be some stuff in here. Actually, yeah, okay. So this is going to be combined. Combine texture, get rid of these two. Yeah. Clear these search highlights real quick. All right, so material textures. Combined. Combined, get rid of these two. Nothing else there needs to change. All right, default terrain material. I think this is the last thing we actually have to update. Combined. Get rid of those two. And this right here is just combined. Okay. All right, I think that's it, actually. I think that's it. So let's build. We're not going to be able to run this yet because we don't have our material loading set up. That is another thing I need to change, actually. Actually, no. I don't need to change that. Because we made that generic enough, it won't matter. So actually all I have to do is change the configurations themselves. So, for example, if we do, what was it, wavy sand, here's the material definition for that, right? And so we have these metallic, roughness, and AO maps. So let's grab these. And actually I could just delete them, honestly. Right, so we can remove these maps. And for metallic, change it to combined. And then simply change the name to combined. And that's all we should need to do. So ultimately, the rest of this change becomes going through each material file and making this change, which there's not that many material files. But then also running our new utility against all of the textures in this, which is what's going to take all the time, I think. I might just write a batch file to do it for me, honestly. To go ahead and convert all of those, or combine all those textures. And what I'm going to do is, when I get that portion of it done, I'm going to push up, kind of like what we've done for this guy, is I'm just going to push the combined texture there, and I'll leave the others for now, just as source. That way, at least, you know, all the source material is still there in case we need to make any changes. But, yeah, we pretty much got it done. It's just a matter of kind of going through all of these guys and making those changes, right? So some of them have all the maps. Some of them don't have any maps. Some of them don't have... Yeah, it varies, so... Okay. So, with that said... it is getting kind of late here tonight, and I do have to work in the morning, so I think this is probably where I'm going to wrap up the stream. But what I'll do before I wrap that up is I'm going to push this code, so that way if you guys want to at least see what the heck we're doing here, or want to use this for yourself, it'll be available on a branch. But what we're going to do is we're going to do git checkout b feature PBR combined, right? So that's going to be the name of the branch that we're going to push to get. We're going to get add. You know what? Before I do that, before I commit that, I need to make one small change on not to do change log. We need to add what we did. So, changed PBR and terrain materials to use a combined map containing metallic in R, roughness in G, and AO in B. Also wrote a conversion utility and tools for this. As a result, explicit metallic, roughness, and AO maps have been removed. Right. Okay. Combined. Let's see. Added combined texture map and conversion utility to generate them. Good enough. You can see the changelog if you want more than that. All right. So get push origin feature PBR combined. All right. And so with that, let me find it. So on the kohi repo, there is a feature PBR combined here listed under branches, right? So that is where our code resides tonight. And what I'll do is offline, I'll run the conversion process on the rest of the materials and in the images. And by the time we have the next stream, we should be able to test that and see if it works. So with that, that's where I'm going to wrap up tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining me here. I really appreciate all the support tonight. The hype train, that was awesome. So we definitely hit a record and then some tonight. So I really appreciate the support there, guys. And with that said, let's see. Let's have a look and see who we can raid tonight. Give me just a second here to have a look. Let's see. Let's see who's doing something interesting tonight. I'm just looking for somebody to raid real quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing this. I just want to see who we can find, right? All right, let's go with... You know what? I've actually raided his channel a couple of times, but I'm going to raid it one more time tonight. I'm going to raid New Jank's channel. So I'm going to I'll paste the I'll paste this on the YouTube side as well. So he's working on a retro like NES style game, which is looking pretty neat. Reminds me of a lot of the games that I played when I was growing up, and so I really like what he's doing, and so I think it's kind of a neat project. So I'm gonna go ahead and raid him. Don't forget to follow me here and over on YouTube if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate it. I'll drop my socials here for you guys as well if you want those. I have a new Linktree thing set up, so you guys should be able to hit that and find all my socials, right? So, all right, guys, I will see you next time. See ya.